Hello, Discord, X, and YouTube. Join me as we prep for the week. Well, I've actually already done my prep, so we're gonna typically stuff like this we only share privately in the Discord. So this is gonna serve as an advertisement of how we kind of go through and prep for the week. So, starting out with our grade or thesis right now for what we're seeing for the market. Lots of people think that the rally can continue, that we're going to get an extension. What we see here is we see this wedge forming on SPIX here. See a very dangerous doji candle here on the weekly that I think could get an extension to the downside. We see that momentum is also starting to fail, give that confirmation. If we see here on the daily, we got a perfect extension to our 2.618 Fibonacci. And then a rollover to the bottom of the wedge that got tested, caught that bounce on Friday, which was within our expectations. We had actually expected us to kind of bounce off the wedge. We could get a retest of the top of that wedge before we get to the final turnover. But right now, we hold that bearish bias, a break of the all-time highs. It's a pretty tight risk to take here. And so we're already in some short positions and looking to size up on the break of the bottom of that wedge, which should take us to around 6,000, which I feel like is actually pretty conservative if we do see a retracement from this rally. We are not getting good confirmation from the RSI of a continuation here. So there's a lot of things building into that bearish thesis. Not to mention the fact that there's a lot of like major names that aren't giving good confirmations. And then we also have big data coming out this week. So we're going to have the consumer confidence, which has been on the decline. Keep in mind that it is within expectations of the market though. And then we got a lot of job numbers. So we got the jobs openings. We have initial jobless claims. We're going to have non-farm payrolls and unemployment rate on Friday as well. So I think this data is going to be pretty big, and we should see bigger reactions from the data than we have seen over, the past 2 months or so from the market. So with that backdrop, on our kind of overall thesis, now let's pick out some individual names. If the market does want to continue to the upside, one of my favorite upside plays is going to be Apple this week. Really nice consolidation at the highs. Here, really nice structure as well. Still looks pretty healthy on the daily here. Another final push to bring us to the all-time high. I think wouldn't be bad as all. You have some solid catalysts. I think the new releases were well received. I actually have my AirPod 3s in my ears right now. I freaking love these new AirPod Pros. I think these are without a doubt the best ones they've ever made. So the next bullish position that I think is of interest to me right now is Tesla. I think Tesla has a really nice setup here. We're going to have some order numbers come out this week. This type of consolidation at the highs with a nice breakthrough, you come back, test the bullish EMA, got confirmation and a nice bounce off of that. So we could have potentially a very explosive move this week. And one of the things about cult names like this is even if the market does roll over, shows some weakness, Tesla can easily continue its extension to the upside. Cult names are just good like that. So overall, this looks like a nice coiling here on shorter time frames. It still looks really strong as well. So I like Tesla here. It also is my number one stock position though. So I'll probably be lighter in options than most people because I'm still capturing this move. So we've been long members of MBT. I've been long Tesla since around actually the lows down here is when we started our accumulation. And so we rode this all the way up with an average of like 182 at this point now, because we did a lot of unloading at these previous highs. And long term by 2027, I think easily Tesla could be a $700, potentially $800 stock if we get good follow through on Optimus. My thesis on Tesla's never been reliant on EV. It's all been about self-driving and robotics and energy storage company. So For downside plays, Oracle's one the short that we were in last week that we're looking for an extension on, looking to see if this could fill the gap to the downside. Bulls are really having a hard time coping with this. There's a lot of people on social media, especially on X, that are typically the people that say trade what you see, not what you feel. And then they're complaining at the same time of, why is this going down? They gave a 5-year track record. It's going down. I thought you guys were supposed to trade what you see and not what you feel. A lot of bulls really struggle when the market starts to show signs of weakness, and they stay in that denial state. Saw a lot of people complaining about getting punished last week. Last week we had an amazing week, a 94% win rate, because we see these signals. I think maybe I'm just blessed because the strategies that I've developed over the years are really good at getting close to highs. So we were a bit early to this one, a bit early to trying this short. We actually tried it on the denial here, but we ended up getting the confirmation the next week. So, led to a more, I think it was like a 60% win rate 2 weeks ago, but then last week we got all the confirmations and we did amazing. Still not really having a bad week, but a lot of people can't make that pivot. It's really difficult to switch that train of thought of, it's a bubble, buy everything, buy every dip, to it's sold and it keeps selling. It's giving out support, gave out a major support, and it looks like it's going to hunt for this gap fill to the downside. So, as we continue to make new lows, we're going to continue to roll that position and look for a continuation to the downside. Another name, some of these names make great runs in the bull market, but then when sentiment starts to turn over, weaker theses really come to light. People start looking at things with a more skeptical eye, and one of those names is CoreWeave. CoreWeave's whole business model could be wiped out and overnight if NVIDIA chose to do so, and even then it's not really the most solid business model. So a stock like this breaking major EMAs on the daily and breaking major support, I'll be looking to take this shorter. Looking for an extension here. We have a great setup here to catch that further to the downside. It's tested it multiple times, so you get that break. I think this is probably one of my top shorts that I'm going to watch for. There's another one. Actually, there's a few really good ones that I probably won't share on this because I'm going to post this publicly, but are in the Discord. Which one do I want to share, though? I think I'm going to pull up. Let's look at, let's actually look at Costco together. I think Costco's got a really interesting short setup here. We're testing some major levels here. We got a huge break to the downside. We got the TTM flip to the downside. We have a bearish RSI structure as well. It did manage to catch a bounce off of some major, actually let me find this chart. It did manage to catch a bounce off this lower key level here. But we've clearly broken the EMAs. We were able to reclaim above that 925 is kind of where you start to get healthy again and buyers come in and defend. If you break this trend line here that we've held since 2024, this stock could take a major dive. And I think the consumer numbers were actually really poor, despite beating. We saw that the top 10% of people are making up over 50% of all the spending. That's not a good sign. It could be a great sign for Costco, because it's typically a higher bracket that shops at Costco. But I think some weakness could spill from here. People might start to deviate from Costco, go shop at Aldi's, go shop at Walmart instead. Even though just to spend less per week. The story you hear from everyone is they end up spending way more than I expect at Costco. I'm one of them. I love Costco, by the way. A major dip here is a buy, in my opinion. This stock bums me out. I sold it. It was a long-term hold for mine for a while, and I sold it too early. Amazing company, absolutely amazing company. But again, we don't trade what we feel. We trade what we see. And if you break this trend line, it's a great short, in my opinion. This stock trades at higher multiples than a lot of tech companies, and it's a grocery store that has some of the lowest margins of any grocery store because they make most of their membership money off membership. So be mindful of that. That's something you probably want to keep an eye on for the downside. Let's see here what else we got. Because we have quite a bit that we were watching here. Intel is a name that a lot of our members are writing right now. I think it's important to kind of mention this one. You know, the government's now backing this. Government wants it to succeed, and they're going to push for that success. Trump will do whatever he can to get everyone to buy and make them tons of money. So I think once you break kind of over this 37.20, you're going to get a really nice continuation. The 40s should be a breeze, and then we should get into the 50s on this name. I think most ideal here, what probably be easiest to trade is if you initially get a denial of 37.20 and you kind of maybe form a cup back off of 32. That would definitely be a buy in my opinion. However, we don't necessarily have to do that. I know the RSI is extremely overbought here, but the thing is it's more overbought than it's been in a while. And on longer time frames, that's actually a signal of a continuation that it can run even hotter. So I'd be watching on shorter time frames for things like divergences. Look for those divergences on the 15-minute, and then you can also play extensions from here further to the upside. You know, you've got really strong tailwinds on this one. Another name that's like that, that's also the sector has had a lot of strength is like MP. You know, we made a 200% on that move on Thursday with this name, and it keeps trading in this really tight wedge. But the thing is that was pretty much the all-time high, a double top there. I'm actually going to set this alert right now because it should have been set up already. If you could get a nice push through that, you know, or even if we can get a solid bounce off of a 66 here, I might see that as a buy and look for an extension. You know, there's been a lot of strength across the board in these names. I think just anything related to rare metals has been trying to play catch up with gold. You also have this lithium company that's also done really well and is giving the signals of a breakout. So you're just now breaking out on the daily here as well, and monthly is trying to improve. It does need some time, but weekly is giving nice confirmation, right? You've cleared over this EMA convergence. You can come back and test it a few times, and buyers have stepped in. That's really strong price action here, and now we're starting to break some major key levels. So this thing can make a really big breakout from here. So I think that's something that you kind of want to keep on your radar this week, especially as tech starts to show some weakness. You kind of have to expand your horizons and look for if you're more of a bull, and look for opportunities like this that are kind of off the market's radar, but can get some really great continuations. So that's, I think, I don't think there's really anything else that I really want to cover. There were some really bearish comments made from experts in quantum. You know, the father of quantum even called QBTS a scam, and those stocks didn't react, which honestly kind of is telling about the kind of holders that are here. You know, they might not be the most clued in people, and they're kind of setting up to be slaughtered by fundamentals, which eventually do play a role into stocks, right? You know, so you can get this euphoria, these extensions that defy gravity, but eventually, you know, reality does kind of smack names like this, especially when the tech just sucks and has no application. That's just the reality of it. Even if it did work, which it clearly doesn't work because no one's paying for it, you know, what do you even use it for? You know, many people have tried and it hasn't stuck. And I mean, that's as far as that goes, right? When it comes to Bitcoin, I'm still in my short positions here. We are getting a nice pop. You know, bulls might like this pop off of 109, which is good. Big thing here is, you know, I even tweeted earlier, my stop was 116. I might be willing to even lower that a bit to ease potential pain. You know, I might even bring that to break even. You know, I'm short at about like 113.6. So I might be willing to stop that out early. However, this pop and this rally, you know, getting this overbought and not breaking any real major key level is not a good sign, in my opinion. So actually looks like an interesting short idea if like it breaks this EMA. I also looked at like the 24-hour trading on Robinhood and not seeing a ton of confirmation. This isn't getting reactions at a BMNR or a Coinbase or ETHA. Isn't even getting a reaction to the Ethereum move as well, which looks like it's already showing some rollover here on Ethereum. Now, I'm not permabull, right? Even in our broad thesis, this is a buy. This is a fourth wave pullback before you get the fifth wave higher. And in fact, I need to extend this up here because this is going to be around our base case. So, I might as well just change this to I didn't mean to delete it. Can I not edit it from here? Thank you. So 7,500 as my conservative target. And that might come at the end of the year. It might come out in December and then and January into February of next year. But I think it's going to happen, so a retracement like this, I'm just expecting another kind of maybe even more V-shaped than what we had in April type of move as the Fed, maybe aggressively cuts into the weakness. We had Bassett making comments down here that it's time for Main Street and Wall Street needs to just be patient. And then off the bottom of this wedge, when we were only down 2%, he's like, I think we can bring the market back up. So if we do get this move to the downside, even if the news is brutal or whatever gives this, just like we did, go watch, I just reshared my yearly predictions at the end of 2024, where I actually predicted that the bottom would be between 5,000 and 4,800. And I didn't know what would cause that, but that's just what I saw from our technical analysis. Same thing happens here, right? This is just what my technical analysis is telling me. I don't know what the news will be that'll cause it, but I'll tell you, when the news comes, no matter how bad things seem down here, I'm going to start getting long and I'm going to start looking up here. So, trade what you see, not what you feel. The tagline that all the bulls on X forget to follow when things roll over, but that's what I'll keep in mind. And this might not work, which is why we still hunt for some upside plays. So if things look bullish, we got the rare metal ideas, we've got Apple looking okay, we got Tesla looking okay. If we see that weakness, we got some bearish positions as well, and we've got a lot more than I've shared on here. So give the video a like, and maybe I'll just dump all my trade ideas on X. So if you're watching this on X, give it a like and a share, and maybe I'll just dump all those ideas. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed. Good luck for this week. All right. God bless.